goddamn interviews lately. Okay, here we go, folks. This is another Freeform Northwest interview. Today we have Mr. Chris Lund of Chris Lund and of the Lund Brothers and of a few other bands that they were before that I've got a list of somewhere that I'll pull back up and remember them all. Maybe you can tell them us all. What was the first one?
The first one that I like to remember is Loser.
Loser.
Yeah, Loser. And that was my brother and I and Don Allen.
Yeah.
And that was 90, gosh, what was that, 97? And then after that, we changed the lineup a little bit, not much really, and called it International Pop Overthrow. And then we started going with Lund Bros after that.
And your brother, if you look on the Bandcamp site, he had some additional letters after Lund to his name for credits every now and then.
He did, yeah.
So he's
going with the historical moniker.
The historical moniker, the old country.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think he just started doing that again, like maybe on that last one.
Yeah.
Maybe on the Across State Lines.
So you guys have been doing this for a long time, mostly with the brothers, but you got this is your second or third one as a solo?
Second as a solo.
And so what's the basic difference between the two?
It's all my material. I do everything on it. Although we have, it's kind of like a Beatles thing where, I'm not saying we're like the Beatles, but we're like when they got around the time of even before the White Album, maybe, a lot of guys are just doing their own parts in the studio, and whoever else was in on it was in on it. So some of the most recent Lund Bros records have been basically dual sort of solo records, where
right,
he's got 5 or 6 songs, I got 5 or 6 songs, and okay, let's do an album. And this time I just happened to have another 10 or 12 laying around. Although thematically they were different, a little different than what was on Across State Lines. But
so this isn't, you're still on good terms with the brother. You didn't go, I'm making my own solo record. To heck with that, brother.
No, it wasn't like that at all. No, it wasn't. I told him we put out Across State Lines, and I wanted to let that, yeah, there it is. And I wanted to let that kind of nest just a little bit. And then I told him, well, you're going to see, some stuff out. I'm going to put out a thing because I got a bunch of songs ready to go. And okay, yeah, no problem. I get it. Totally. And so in fact, I just visited with him. He came down to Arizona to visit me. Well, actually just to stay in a condo down here that his fiance owns, but we got together for dinner and did some hiking. A lot of fun. So we're still going to be doing music together.
Well, there you go. That's
yeah.
Good. So, because when you started out, you were Tacoma, right?
Yeah.
And then when I first
Olympia, if you go way back.
Oh, so you originally started in Olympia, and then
I did, and then by the time he got on board, I think I was living in Seattle, and then we both ended up moving to Tacoma.
Gotcha.
Tacoma's based. You're right. I shouldn't have interrupted you.
No. That's what this Freeform Northwest is all about. The interruptions. That's what we do here. So, why were you in Olympia? Are you an Olympia lad?
I am. Yeah. Tanglewild.
Oh my!
Yep.
I just saw a brochure today that somebody put on Facebook from 1961. Welcome to Olympia. And they had a very nice spread in there for Tanglewild. It was like, oh yeah, you're gonna love Tanglewild.
Yeah, Suburbia.
That's it.
uh, with the
I never made it out to Tango. I did live in Lacey once when I was, because I grew up here and I lived, you know, Tumwater, Lacey, and all that stuff. But I only lived just barely into Lacey once. That's pretty much it.
yeah, you're not missing too much.
Well, it's right now. If you look at Lacey, because Lacey now has surpassed Olympia for population, because they are, whatever they call it when they take land with people on it and add it to their town, right? There's a
Right.
term for it, I forget. But it's by far the most diverse, racially diverse town in the little Olympia, Lacey Tumwater group.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's, and I've always presumed that's because they're closer to Fort Lewis, but it's also because Olympia, uh, in the 40s, 30s, 50s, even the 60s, they were pretty determined to keep non-white people from living here. It wasn't accidental. It was very deliberate. So, but let's not get
like
into
a
that.
lot of places,
Yeah,
back
yeah.
then.
Well,
Yeah.
that's when I think about it, stuff like your grandparents and stuff, my grandparents, I go, well, geez, were my grandparents like racist? Well, probably. It just
Yeah,
didn't occur to you. It wasn't a discussion I ever had with them. So but it was really, that's they lived in Olympia, Washington. That's the kind of town it was at that time. So
yeah. But I went to all the way through high school in Olympia and moved to Seattle when as soon as I could, just because that's where most of the venues were.
right.
Um, yeah,
Well, that was me. I graduated from Olympia High School. Couldn't get out of here fast enough.
yeah, that's kind of where I was at
Yeah,
that time for
ready
sure.
to shake it up. So it was all good. I'm in Olympia right now, and I've been back here 6, 7 years. I'm very happy to be back here.
Yeah, it's a cool place. I appreciate it all the more when I come back.
But nothing like 40 years off to make it seem even better.
Oh yeah, yeah, like a fine
So
wine.
tell me the story. So you put there's an album even before Losers or Loser.
Yep.
There's some psychedelic or something thing I saw on Bandcamp. So
Yeah.
that's your first thing you put out, right?
That's an EP. That was a thing called Loving Cup.
Right. And so at this point, are you doing the old going into recording studios and paying guys money to record in this stuff? Do you have or your home studio from the get go?
Yeah, I have a home studio, and I bought in 2011. I bought a big old Soundcraft 32 channel mixer,
Yep.
and I decided that I was going to learn how to do this stuff myself because I just got tired of spending the bread. I mean, I was working with some good people, but I got tired of spending the money. And then a lot of times I'd take the mixes home, and being a very picky guy, I would listen to them and I'd go, we need to hit that again.
Right.
And so
Ka-ching.
it costs you more if you want to go back and you got to pull up the tracks again. And so
Right.
I
This
just
is
started doing it
pre-automation
myself.
days for some of that stuff.
Yeah. And I was driving to Seattle most of the time to do it. And so I think the first one, well, the first solo record,
Right.
that and then the Sanguine too. This one,
Right.
around in 2015 is when I started doing it all myself out of my home. And
Yeah.
so that's been much more satisfying because I can mix whenever I want. Um, I can get better performances generally because you're the most relaxed when you're in your own home.
Right.
So you lay down a vocal, you're not as picky about it as you would be if you were in a studio paying $50 an hour or
Right.
more, and you're like, so you super analyze everything. When you're working out of your home, you just go with whatever has the best feel or the best groove, and you're not self-conscious about it at all.
Right.
So that's one reason that I like to do it as well. Plus, I've got a bunch of old analog uh, gear, rack gear, and things that I like to use. I like the ambiance they give to recordings, and I like knobs. I
So
like to
you're
turn
and so
knobs.
you're engineering yourself, right?
Yeah,
So when you're miking up your vocals, for instance,
yeah,
how hard do you find to get you know, the vocal sound? You're going, okay, it's in headphones, but I'm singing, so it's actually in my head too, right?
yeah.
Compared to, oh, now I'm listening back and go, well, that doesn't sound quite the same. Or do you find you pretty you get what you heard in the first place?
You know, with the microphones I have now, uh, and if you get the levels just right, you can. What I'm hearing in the phones is usually what I hear, when I play it back. Because when I sing dry. I'm not putting any effects on going in. So I'm
Right.
just getting the dry vocal, which is, you know, uh, not what I'll usually go with in the end because I'll end up, I like to add a little ambience to it because
And then
my
sometimes you had
studio,
more than a little.
yeah, yeah, something guilty.
Yeah.
I left a note on the kitchen table. Try to recall as well as I'm able. I still recall the good times, but it's not too late to read between the lines. So I'm driving around out on the town. It's making me feel something so real. I'm in love with a military girl. I fell in love with a military girl. It feels so right being with her tonight. I love my military girl. Driving around all over town. She's making me feel fucking surreal. I'm in love with a military girl. I fell in love with a military girl, and it feels so right being with her tonight. And I know you can tell she's my military girl. Military girl. Yeah.
I like echo and delay and all those filters and things like that. And I suppose you can hear a lot of that especially on the later records, the ones that I started
Right.
to do myself. The earlier records are much drier.
Well, and it's partially that's what the gear you've got available to you as all this stuff has become so cheap in the digital world, you know?
Yeah, although almost none of my stuff's digital.
So this is a dedicated system that doesn't do anything but that.
It's just dedicated to recording and mixing
Yeah,
records. I don't have a computer hooked up to it,
right. You're not surfing the internet on that.
so it's really
Hey,
yeah, right. I'm not looking at anything naughty while I'm trying to mix my records or anything like that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's really old school. I mean, it's probably laughable old school to some people, but
You know,
I
if you
get
got a
I
system and
feel
it works and you can get a result that you
yep.
like, it's like, why mess with it? You know?
And it looks like a mad scientist laboratory more so than if you just doing it all in the box.
Right?
Yeah,
Do you record other people or just yourself?
I've thought about it, but it's hard enough listening critically to your own music. Most of my income is made. I teach guitar,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me to do that, and I'm teaching all over the valley and the Valley of the Sun here.
Right?
And for me to do that and then have a commercial studio too, The money's pretty good for teaching. Actually, probably even better than if you had a commercial studio, actually. But,
Yeah.
so I haven't done that. I guess I haven't wanted to spend that much time kind of just listening to other people go through all their anxieties about what they're recording.
Right.
Hopefully that's understandable.
Yeah. Well, it's a question of what you like to do. How long have you been in Arizona now?
Since June of 21.
So not that long, and
Not that long. No, it's
your
taken.
your teaching gig is all cooking down there.
I've got it up and running. Yeah. It took probably 6 months, but it's up and running, and I teach out of 4 stores here around town.
Oh, so you're actually sitting in a room with students.
Yeah. It's not classroom. It's all private instruction.
Right, but I'm saying it's not Zoom.
No, it's not Zoom. No, I never ended up doing. I think I did one Zoom lesson when I was in Tacoma, right when COVID hit, and I just went, I don't like this. I can't do this, and nothing. It's just really hard to teach guitar via Zoom and have it be really effective.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can't play anything together. You know.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, yeah, you can't. And it's just having that one-on-one. So, at Ted Brown, where I taught a lot when I lived in Tacoma,
right?
We were doing lessons, with masks and stuff, and I had no problem with that. I'm not an anti-mask guy or something like that. Down here, I came down here, and they were just starting to come out of that. And they were actually anxious to get somebody in, because some of the older guys that have been doing it down here, they kind of chose to get out of it when COVID hit. They went like, okay, I found another way to make a little bit of bread. Maybe I don't need to teach. And so it kind of created a vacuum. And so when the vaccines came out and stuff, I think it was good timing for me to be here.
It's never bad to have good timing.
Especially if you're playing music.
The clock is ticking on the classroom wall, and you've been staring at me since last fall. The summer's coming in a minute or two, and sixth period is almost through. After school, get on my back and ride to you. Waited all year for this moment. She said, come on in. She said with a sleepy grin, come on in. It's the perfect situation. Time's running, I can't control it. She says I love you, then she makes me hold it. Time's running out, I can't control it. She says I love you, then she makes me hold it now. And when she stands at the head of the class, all the guys like to watch her still hear the music play. Time's running, I can't control it. She says I love you, then she makes me hold it. Time's running, I can't control it. She says I love you, then she makes me hold it now.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're a catchy pop kind of guy, you know?
That's the way my music ended up. I never planned it that way. It's just I think Keith Richards said, whatever you listen to, it's going to come out. If you're a player or writing
Right.
songs, that's going to come out. And I grew up listening to, the Beatles' "A Hard Day's Night." That when I first time I heard that record, in fact, the opening track, the big, bash, the first
Right.
chord, I was just like, wow, that's what I got to do with my life. And so I ended up listening to a lot of. There's a combination of, you're listening to Led Zeppelin and yet you're listening to The Sweet,
Right.
or you're listening to Cheap Trick, but you're also listening to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So it's like, and I like the Sex Pistols. I like so hopefully all those things kind of make their way in
Right.
there.
No, the Sex Pistols, when they came out, were glorious.
Oh God, that record. I mean,
It hasn't worn as well for me as some things, but when
Yeah.
it came out, I was working at a record store at that time, right?
yeah,
Everybody's records in out in Aurora, and the first thing we got in was the 7-inch single of "God Save the Queen."
oh God,
Put
what
it
a,
on. It was so great. It was just like,
yeah.
God, you know,
Some of the coolest stuff that's out now to me sounds more retro.
right?
And so you can knock it for being a little bit retro, as you could probably knock, the music that I do, where there's retro elements in it. But that's what the people that listen to it like. They want to hear
Right.
some of those sounds. But yeah, you're right. I don't think I kept thinking, okay, well, the Beatles came around, somebody else is going to come around and kick the industry back open again. I remember in the 80s, I thought maybe the Cars would do it. And they kind of, but not. I don't see another Beatles coming along. I don't mean just stylistically, but like you said, something that changes the music again.
Well, but part of that is the context of media. I mean, when the Beatles came out, it was very limited media. So you had 3 TV networks and you had AM radio.
Yeah.
And AM radio was super gatekeepered. You couldn't get on AM radio unless you had the right connections or the right payola. And,
Right.
That, and it's all, as it becomes more diversified, it becomes harder to make that kind of impact, and like when the Satisfaction came out by the Rolling Stones, and they've got that Maestro fuzz pedal. They're the first guys to do that on a record.
Yeah, right.
And everybody heard that, went, oh my God, what is that? Right? Whereas it's like, that stuff's everywhere. And I mean, when you look at even like when all the punk rock stuff happened, independent record stuff with, when people were putting out their own singles, like with Devo and all that stuff, that was outside the mainstream. That's what they were saying. We don't need the mainstream. And so, I mean, now there's so many million points of entry. It's hard to do it. Taylor Swift has done it. Taylor Swift sells piles of records. And, I want to hate Taylor Swift, but I don't really hate Taylor Swift. I just don't pay any attention.
Yeah. She's probably one of the most cutting edge artists out there right now, though.
And she is.
He said reluctantly.
Yeah, well, she's the dominant seller of everything in pop music for the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
However long she's been doing it, She makes CDs. She makes vinyl records. She sells downloads. She gets streams. She gets her 0.008 cents per song streaming.
Yeah.
She gets all that stuff. And plus she gets AT&T commercials. You know, she gets on the commercials because she's Taylor Swift. You know, have you had any AT&T commercials lately? No, that's okay.
I got your number from a friend of mine. He said that everything was going fine. Everything is fine. I saw you just the other day in school. They said that you were breaking all the rules. We gotta heed the telltale signs, 'cause intervention isn't always divine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. All the time. Everything is fine. There were the rumors at the PTA. They warned us you were gonna go astray. We gotta read the telltale signs, 'cause intervention isn't always divine. There's something living inside your head. You started fires and wet in the bed, but everything is fine. Everything is fine. All the time. I saw you just the other day at school. They said that you were breaking all the rules. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. It wasn't drugs and it wasn't the medicine. It wasn't light clothes or Thomas Edison. It wasn't God or parental discretion. It wasn't sex and it wasn't the lessons. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. All the time. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine.
So where's it all go from here, young man?
Well, I got my studio finally. I didn't trust the movers to move it because they destroyed a bunch of our other stuff. So I decided to take my musical equipment, it was a wise decision, move it separately. So I rented a U-Haul for that
Right.
and moved my studio and all my guitars and all the drums and all that stuff. I actually drove that down here in a U-Haul.
Yeah.
And I've
good
got it
choice.
all set up again.
Yeah.
I have, again, I always have, and that's one reason I've had the solo albums, because it's not so much that, oh, I need to express myself in a different way. It's still, the same type of music, I guess, that I'm doing with Lund Bros and my brother. It's just that I always have so much stuff laying around. So fortunately, I have a bunch of stuff still laying around, meaning songs,
Right.
riffs, hooks, ideas. And so that's why that's what I need to get back into, is starting to put those pieces together, because I always want to be making a record. That's kind of my thing. I've always wanted to be in the process of making a record, and I guess that's just the way it's naturally been. But
How deliberate are you in making a record? Did you go, I'm going to start this new record, it's time for me to start working on songs, or is this stuff just coming at you all the time? here's some more stuff, song ideas that I kind of got half together, 2/3 together, and it's time to pull them together. What's your working methodology in that regard?
Usually, it would be hear a melody in my head or play a riff and then just lay it down. It used to be cassettes. Now I suppose you'd use your phone, just anything so you can remember it and
Right.
hear it so you can use it again. But the funny thing with Indian Summer, this record that I just put out, is I came up with the theme first
Unusual.
because I thought, well, in my life, I'm kind of, Indian Summers, that period where you get like you guys had in Olympia, you get a longer summer than usual, and so you have an
Right.
extension of the nice weather and the fun. Although I guess
Yep.
it was really hot at some points, but and that's kind of the way I felt where I was at in my life. I'm pretty comfortable and still feel pretty young, and I still got a good window to make a lot more music. And so I'm in my Indian summer, and so I thought, well, what are the other things that are in Indian summer? Maybe like, gosh, girls, all the superficial shit, right? Like girls, cars, rock and roll.
Well, come on, it's an Indian summer. Well, we still got the time. So come on, now don't you be a bummer. We can draw the line. Just when I think we're alone, always seems to be somebody at home. We got a window and it's closing fast. We gotta move 'cause it ain't gonna last. I wanna have an Indian summer girl. I wanna have an Indian summer girl. There's not much left to say, with the summer slowly slipping away. And there's only one thing left we can do. But when I think we're alone, there's somebody coming over the phone. And now I just gotta say, when can I have my Indian summer girl? I gotta have it now. When can I have my Indian summer girl? Indian summer girl. Oh yeah. When summer's over, there won't be time. Classroom attendance and standing in line. When can I have my Indian summer girl? Can't live without it now. When can I have an Indian summer girl? So come on, 'cause it's an Indian summer. Well, we still got the time. So come on, don't you be a bummer. We can draw the line. Just when I think we're alone, always seems to be somebody at home. I gotta have my Indian summer girl. Oh yeah, I gotta have my Indian summer girl. I can't wait for next summer. When can I have my Indian summer girl? I can't wait for next summer.
The next album's going to be all Arizona tunes.
all about cactuses and
Cactuses and gunslingers.
critters.
That's right.
I don't even own any guns, man.
Yeah. You know, when I bought my house, I've got a gun safe. It came with my house, right? So I don't have any guns, so it's full of microphones. You know?
There you go, man. That I like. That's my kind of battery.
Yeah, it's all
that's,
good. So, well, great. This has been fun. Anything
Yeah.
you'd like to add to the interview?
First of all, I want to thank you, Tom, for having me in. I think this is the first one I've done for this one.
Oh, good. And one second, you held it up, but the listeners couldn't hear it because this is radio. What's this one, and where can they get it?
That's my Indian Summer record, and it just came out, and you can get it on chrislund.bandcamp.com. Have a listen to it, see if you like it, get it, pick it up, and you could also go to chrislund.rocks. That's there's all the albums are there. You can, or at least there's links to purchase them, and then there's the whole. If you're really a masochist, you can read the whole sordid history of my brother and I's endeavors in the music business, and
and thankfully that stuff even will stay on the internet in some form forever. There will be the Wayback Machine or something. After you've been gone for 50 years, somebody will be able to put it in the Wayback Machine and go, "Oh my God, there it is."
like Van Gogh or something,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's one reason I like the idea of making. I like the idea of making records because they're a time capsule, and they will outlast you. And who knows? Maybe only 5 people will listen to them after you're gone, or maybe more. But it's you're kind of leaving your mark on the planet while you got your time here.
Yeah, well, and I think you're doing something with your time that I think is you're kind of compulsed to do. It's like this is you have a need to do it for whatever reason. I got up today. Oh, I've got several hours today. I better fill them up with something important. So
yeah, exactly. You have to be, I think most artists are, musicians, whatever, are compelled to do it. And that's, you're compelled to do it. It's not just like, it might be neat to do a little hobby today. It's like, no, this is your life,
Yep.
So.
Well, Chris, thanks so much for being on Freeform Northwest. And this will be on Wednesday. We'll get it all chopped up and stick a couple 3 songs in there in the middle of it and make it sound, really slick and professional. Beep out the fuck.
Yeah. There's 1 or 2 of those on the record, I think.
Yeah, well, that's
the naughty
I'm sure
bits.
They're clearly marked. It says big. One of the things I'm happy you do. People are not doing this anymore. You stick your song times on there. Because if you're on the radio, students radio, it's a pain in the ass to have to. You can find it by looking elsewhere, but it's just nice. You go, there it is. That's how long it is. That's how much time it is.
I always love seeing the song times on there. How condensed an area can you make your point? You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, it's been fun, and good luck, and keep me informed with what's new.
Don't wanna hear about It's a form of temporary